How has your startup experience been most useful in your new corporate role?
My skills in terms of management didn't progress because I generally only had one or two people reporting me. The startups was fairly small. The piece I think that really accelerated, but that made me a much more effective business person generally, is a much better understanding of business development. And all credit to this guy I worked for at IXI, Marsh Marshall. So Marsh, very experienced, really knew how to start from nothing, right? Really had a very good sense of how we were going to fan demand. So I created the product at IXI, and Marsh kind of more worried about the sales component when it was just the two of us. But in the course of that, I mean, I was the technical expert, so he and I would go on basically everything together. So Marsh, I think, did a really nice job because he was bringing me into all these meetings and got me involved in the business development side. Really got me very comfortable having those meetings about business terms, what was possible, what wasn't possible. And he and I spent a lot of time, I called it going into seminar. He and I would sit around in his office or my office and debate some abstract point of our business, right, our business strategy, and get to an answer that we both felt was intellectually very honest, that we were comfortable with, and that was great experience, really great. And then I also learned a lot from the lawyer at IXI. He really got me very comfortable reading a contract, understanding business terms, and he was really good about explaining the why of it, right? So it wasn't like, hey, you can't do this. It was very much around, okay, look, I would not advise this because. And then you say, okay, I get it, right? But like, there's a lot of money on the line. So the risk is small and the reward is great. And he'd be like, that's fine. Like, totally cool with that. I'm happy to draft the contract that way. I just want you to be aware of what the risks are. So I thought his actual approach to that, I thought was really very mature for actually a fairly young lawyer.
That's great. And how has that applied with your role at Turner?
I have 3 roles at Turner, actually. One is I am responsible for building the analytic platform. I'll call it the audience insight platform, right? So it's just a platform that we load data in and could use for analysis. Then there's a very small team that actually uses that platform for business purposes. Then I have a third group that is responsible for ad sales partnerships, and it's a business development team. And the team's called Ad Sales Partnerships. That team is responsible for thinking about, really for talking to ad sales, our ad sales folks, and getting a perspective on what kind of ad products we need in the market to innovate. And Turner is very innovative on that, on pretty much anything. I mean, it's a very innovative company for one so large. So that team looks for new capability in the marketplace, and we sign deals to enable new ad product. And as it turns out, that ties very tightly with the audience insights piece of my job. A lot of these capabilities are things that involve data, right? So I'm very comfortable in that world. I have a great guy working for me named Joey Trotz, who's a very skilled business development person, and we're actually going to build that team up a little more.